There's this guy that I watch sometimes on YouTube. Well, I don't know if he does videos recently, but he had this thing called I think it's like DIY auto body or something something like that. And it's this guy that puts a ton of work in it. This is all over YouTube, but a person that does a ton of work on their videos has 30,000 subscribers or 10,000 or something like that. And he just puts out these long, detailed, great videos, entertaining, and I think he's in Texas, and he always starts off with what you're about to witness. It's like, here's the situation. We're in here. And he's not like presenting. This is like how he is. And he's like, we got this situation over here and a situation over here. Let me tell you why they messed this up. And now we're in this situation, and you're like, and it's really entertaining. And
it's for a car.
It's just, he has some restoration shop that's really interesting looking. And he's not presenting or doing anything. He's just being himself. And it's highly entertaining, and I'm sure extremely grating to who has to normally deal with him because he's constantly shouting at them.
All that to say, today you will be using the theater of the mind because we chose to do something new and radical, which is no video because we look like shit and sound like shit.
Yeah.
We're shit. We're doing some renovations, I guess. To kind of say we're working on some.
It's gonna look good.
It's gonna look a lot better. We're actually looking to do like a theme because the last time you were here, it's just more of the same grunge, post-apocalyptic. People are like wondering how we could secure such a cool office space in the middle of the Ukraine. Like, no. That's what East Hollywood looks like. You could probably just take the name Hollywood off and just call it East.
Someone told me it's not actually East Hollywood, though, because I showed them on a map where it was, and they're like, that's not truly East Hollywood.
Sure.
Yeah. They also don't live in LA.
Hollywood also doesn't, like, technically exist. It is like Hollywood's
philosophically,
or it's like a state of mind.
Right.
In a way, because it's Los Angeles, but so like there's a mayor of Hollywood, except that it's like an honorary title because Hollywood's not real.
It's like when you're given the key to the city, you're given the Hollywood.
I think it's actually pretty representative of what Hollywood is. It's just a big fake facade.
Lip service.
Yeah. So, yeah, technically we were in Koreatown, I think. On the edge of, it's like East Hollywood meets Koreatown. And it wasn't good for anybody.
I was about to say the various fast food franchises around us, but I was like, no, that'd be too specific. And then I was like, maybe it won't be.
Not really. McDonald's and a hot chicken place, and then some Korean barbecue place that only takes cash.
Yeah.
All that to say, I think this is a creative endeavor to just keep it audio based, but it's also visual based because we just throwing a bunch of B-roll of the movie we watched last night, which makes it a lot easier. It's been a little while. I haven't even started editing the last ones we did. I'm so behind.
Yeah.
That's kind of what this podcast is about. Being very behind and just trying to live up to your own expectations.
Do we want to talk creative on this one?
Yeah.
Or do we want to talk about me trying to fix the car? No, we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. So when you get here, we spend about 2 days kind of just hanging out, catching up. Not to show you how the sausage is made or anything, but typically because you get here and I still have 2 days of work. You're working. You're more remote than I am these days. You're able to do that, but then I'm like, well, I got to go and turn the wheel, as you do. But then our weekend, the Saturday, Sunday, we actually are able to record these things and we talk about, let's talk about this. I told you I read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which I have a lot of thoughts.
I'm so excited to hear.
Yeah, anyway,
because
But more importantly, I think it's just like I'm disappointed in myself. When we did that Patreon video, I set up my own lofty goals of this is it. We're going to do it. I was also in a state of transition at that point between jobs. I thought I was going to be more to a remote job, and that didn't really work out. So now I'm more at a full-time job that's more of a hybrid thing. So I don't have as much time to work on the Null+Void stuff that I thought I would. I used to be able to spend 3 days in a row just working on Rook or anything else when I was at the other place because it was all just project stuff. So I was like, I'll finish the project, kick that out. It's not due till Friday, so I won't turn it in until the end of the day. And I have the rest of the week just to work on stuff. Whereas now I can't really work on stuff when there's downtime all the time. I have about 2 days a week I can do that.
I mean, there's definitely that element to it, but there's also the thing we're both guilty of right now is goal setting, and goal setting leans into time management too, because if you know exactly which thing you're focusing on, then you can set aside that time. And I'm very guilty of like, not creating that roadmap. There's creative we talk about, doing, which I think we're going to talk about now, but
so do burnouts in college,
right?
So,
well, the difference between, as I told my grandma the other day, a writer and a non-writer is a writer writes, and someone who fancies himself a writer doesn't write is not a writer. And I know maybe that sounds harsh, but it's true.
No,
to me.
and
it's like
I'm still the thing. I'm trying to just do the things we promise. So like, I want to finish the audiobook. I don't know how many people are listening to it or if it's going to mean anything, but that is a goal that I set for myself. Of it's a fun exercise in just doing voices and reading, but it's a lot of work. And I put some stuff in place now where I'm not editing it, which saves a day that I can I can just focus on the recordings. That will just move things a lot quicker. I don't know how many people are like, hey, I don't care if you do this whole thing or not. It's more for myself of, hey, I promised I would do this, and I still want to keep doing it. And then I want to keep editing this podcast, but we're trying to like get more support in place. So then we can work on the bigger projects that there's about 16,000 of them on my mind. And it's that whole thing where you have so much that you get nothing done.
Right.
And I hate that. That's the part. That's where the disappointment comes in.
That's the focus. It's you can't allocate time to.
So what do you want to focus on?
Well, there's the things that are currently going on, and then there's the things that we've been talking about wanting to do. Like the thing that I'm focused on right now that I'm actually doing is writing the script for Detroit Muscle, the pilot script for that. To
explain this,
send
this
off
porno
into the ether
to me. Aaron's muscle dream of the 70s.
Well, this is 60s.
Sorry. Anytime you talk about the GTO, I think of the 70s. Or I think of the Nova, like the 1970 Nova. Whenever I don't know why when you say.
See, it's interesting. You think what comes to mind is actually the downfall of that era.
Right.
Like that's when the era was ending, which is a part of it at the end.
Yeah. If AMC will give you
get off their asses, and
I want this to be your MASH, where the show goes on longer than the actual conflict.
The actual conflict.
Yeah. So I want Detroit Muscle to go on for 35 years, but it ends at 1971.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell me about Detroit Muscle. You've told me about it before, but this is a scripted show.
Yeah. So this
was before Rook.
This is before Rook. This is something I've been stewing on for a long time because, the background of my life is very much, it's very mechanical. It's yes, a creative and writer and everything, but I grew up with these like vehicles around constantly, like these classic muscle cars. And on the one hand, I was getting to see the mechanics and the passion of these cars and like the speed and all this stuff. And on the other hand, as a voracious reader and writer, like I was so interested in the history of all this stuff. So basically what Detroit Muscle is the rise and fall of this era where there were no rules in making cars. It's following the big three, Ford, Chrysler, and GM, as they basically kick off the muscle car era in 1964, and the trials and tribulations, the spying, the totally dangerous racing on the street against teenagers to test their products, like this whole Wild West era in a city that was actually the city upon a hill pretty much for America. Yeah. It was this booming, one of the biggest cities, most successful cities in America, rife with racial problems and all of the American things that we still deal with today. It's this total, this little encapsulation of America in this city, in Detroit. and of the most American of industries, which was the car industry, which was the biggest in the world.
Right. And you've told me before, which I think what makes it really compelling is it is that time where it feels like the American dream was realized.
It was right at the crest of that wave of where, a poor person, a black person could get a job at GM and retire on that job, have a house, own 2 cars, send their kids to school, and get a pension when they retired.
Right. And that was around the time of the civil rights movement, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
Right.
But backtrack a little bit. This is a like a serial show, like an hour long, it's like a mix of Mad Men and Ford versus Ferrari, basically. It's a period piece following this guy that I shouldn't say his real name for this.
No.
I'll say his name's John.
Yeah. I remember you came out here. John lives in LA adjacent area, and you drove out and interviewed John.
Well, he's in a village now. He's an elderly man in his 90s, and he was this at the center of the start of this era, and through this muscle car craze era, he was this person who, I don't think I'm giving too much, but he it doesn't matter. Yeah,
look, if Citizen Kane can get away with it, what's wrong? Why
he's
can't
no
you?
Hearst, but
no, not at all.
But
very
anyway,
much this is one of your heroes, your idols that no one knows about.
He actually, one of my many kind of influences. He was this guru of creative, of advertising, of everything, and he was like a trickster, as far as swapping engines out of cars and sending them to journalists and creating hype, and he was just a fascinating person who I'd read his biography. And then I went and I came out, like you said, a couple of years ago or whatever, to interview him at his place he's at now, and it was an extremely interesting interview, talking to him. Like, he's John DeLorean was his right hand dude, and they were working together and telling me about flights to LA and orgies and just all the craziness of that era, and the drama and the soapiness of these human interaction, the soap opera,
right,
yeah, whatever,
not the lubrication at the orgies.
But he's telling me this fascinating stuff, and then we can cut this if we want. But yeah,
just talk.
I'll just say, yeah. So he's telling me all this fascinating stuff. I'm like 3 or 4 hours, he and I in this room, and just one of my idols, and talking to him. Now he's in his 90s. His mind is slipping a bit. Yeah. And I was warned of this, and I was basically told, kind of sunset time is sunset time, but I was so just completely engaged in this conversation of this history of this inside, like tell me about, Lee Iacocca, the maker of the Mustang, trying to poach him and like created this new car, and just all this stuff. Then his mind starts to slip. He starts talking about, he's like, and also I got my eye on the Studebaker down the street at the car lot. And I was like, okay, really? And, name I haven't heard in a while. And he's like, yeah, new model. These 1950 ones I think are going to be, really great. I was like,
yeah,
okay, and
he's slipping.
Yeah, he starts slipping a bit. So I'm recording all this the entire time, just so I can have this kind of transcript of it. And I go and get the nurse, to kind of say, hey, I need to leave. Can go get him,
Help.
go get John. And when I came back into the room, John was muttering to himself. I was like, what is he muttering? Like I wasn't even there. And I sit down and, man, I should have prefaced this. But anyway, I sit down and he is kind of looking through me and like I'm not even there. And he says something like, yep, and you're talking to him about the old times and you just can't help staring at his body. And I was like, John? And he's like, he's right there and you can't tell him, and I was like, well, I got to go. And this is a fantastic, I'm so glad I got to talk to you. And he was like, you come for breakfast, right? Tomorrow? I was like, yeah, no, I can come for breakfast. What time's breakfast? He's like 6:30, and I was like, I'll be here, you know. And what I discovered later is while I had gone to get the nurse on, tape, he had been,
It was like your jinx moment.
it was the jinx moment, but it was a man expressing his desire for the person across from him. Now, this guy who is still, of course, still an idol and everything like that, I had suspected in my readings of things about him that this might be the case, but because he was coming out or coming up in an era in the 50s and 60s in an industry where if this would have gotten out, it would have been done. Like he
just like internally blacklisted. Or,
yeah, blacklisted, and all the things that would have happened had this come to light. And I had suspected this, but it was just something I put in the back of my mind. It's nothing you'd ever confirm or be able to confirm, and also it's not good to speculate or anything, which I might be doing now, but I hopefully not. Because I think he should just be who he is.
Sure.
But,
I mean, it sounds some like some deep-seated repression kind of coming out in a way where he doesn't know what he's saying, he doesn't know what he's thinking, and
well, it's unfiltered now. So, but anyway, all this to say is something that I had suspected and that I wanted to actually celebrate in the story in Detroit Muscle of this. The main character in this story is this person, John, who is having this, doing this incredible things and navigating this crazy Mad Men-esque world of the 60s in Detroit in these auto industries, while also not being able to let the fact be known that he is gay,
or even ask the question.
Right.
Like he can't even go, no, I guess I'm not.
He can't explore it, can't do it. And it's interesting because as in real life, I suspect this is a dude who's drag racing and doing all this manly stuff, working in advertising and these kind of ads where, sex appeal and all this stuff, and having to live this basically hidden life. And I suspect that he put so much energy and heart into his profession, became such a legend because he couldn't face his actual life.
Right.
Which is fascinating to me. And I can't say his name. Like maybe one day, his family or something would actually be fine with, or
after
maybe
the court
not.
trial. Yeah.
But
how dare you slander this beautiful gay man?
But I can still at least celebrate an interesting story that is based in reality. I mean, there's this Detroit Muscle is like anything. There's going to be all this based in reality stuff, but there's some sweetening. I do some poetic license with story, but
it's a shame that you can't just pitch the show without saying Mad Men meets
Ford versus Ferrari,
right?
Yeah.
No, I mean anything, whatever. Who knows? By the time you're ready to sell this thing, what's the next hotness? It's like, oh, it's like that new show, that Riverdale, or whatever. It's not like Riverdale, but I'm saying it's whatever you have to do to get it sold. It does have the smatterings of that, but then it has the real life connection. Whereas Mad Men was a
total
make believe corporation. It was the one you never heard of, but it seems real enough that you could believe it. You're basing this on real, actual things that are happening. It's almost more like Silicon Valley.
It is. I mean, there's those textual elements that I think it's. I mean, I love Mad Men. Don't get me wrong, but there are these elements in Detroit Muscle because they're real. It makes it that much cooler. Like what I go back to is, so there was this street in Detroit, still there, called Woodward Avenue, where now they have these muscle car parades there, and these hot rod parades, and people drive down at 5 miles an hour, and people wave from the side of the road, kind of thing.
I think my Tesla meet up there.
Yeah, right. But back in the 50s and 60s, they do have Tesla meetups. Absolutely.
I know. And there's it's just like a bunch of people showing up with their cell phones.
Right. And their apps. But anyway, 50s and 60s, Woodward Avenue is where people raced. But it wasn't just teenagers, hot rodders racing, the engineers and developers at GM, Ford, and Chrysler raced their experimental stuff against teenagers.
Yeah.
So I remember reading that and
It was market research.
being blown away. It was market research, and it wasn't just research, it was also underground advertising, because you'd whip this 18-year-old in their 55 Chevy, and you're racing the new 1963 something, and they'd be like, what in the hell is that? And you're like, it's coming out next year, you should probably check it out, or whatever. Here's a discount at the dealership. Crazy stuff after they just been racing, fender to fender at 110 miles an hour or whatever, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is extremely dangerous. I remember
Illegal.
Yeah, illegal, fascinating.
No seatbelts at the time.
Well,
Were seatbelts mandatory then?
no, they weren't yet. So part of the thing about Detroit Muscle that starts coming to light in the end of the first season, and then actually happens in the second season. So there were no rules essentially safety wise in cars, up until about 1965, 1966, because it was all self-governed. So it wasn't until Ralph Nader came in with Unsafe at Any Speed, the book he published in 65, where at the time, and I even remember my dad as a kid being like, Ralph Nader, fucking,
Hippie scum.
Yeah, just
commie
like,
bastard.
Government getting in our way, kind of stuff like that. But you look at his book, and he was like, we need seat belts, we need collapsible steering columns, we need just all this stuff that was extremely important that started saving lives. Like, it sounds lame, but you realize it. You're like, yeah, why wouldn't we have that? It's such a foregone thing we take for granted. Anyway, Detroit Muscle, that entire first season, you're seeing this kind of Wild West, no safety. Like in the pilot episode, there are these two engineers, Rusky and Bill Collins, they're testing this new aluminum bumper that they want to see the strength of it and how it performs in a crash. Mm-hmm. So there's these dummies in this car, or at least crash test dummies. They've got slow motion cameras, and they crash this Pontiac into this wall at like 5 miles an hour. And the entire family gets slammed into the floor. The husband and wife dummy, their heads go through the windshield and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. So then they pull the car back, and the bumper looks great. And they're like, all right, that's a pass, and so you get this feeling throughout the first season of like, man, it was pretty crazy then. And then something happens at the end of the season where you're like, oh, okay, the hammer's going to come down now. Yeah. And sure enough,
fun's over.
It does, where safety starts being injected. And in the second season, actually, and again, this somewhat true to life, pretty true to life. When Ralph Nader publishes this book, GM goes, we need to look into his life. They hire private investigators. They start harassing him. They start doing all this crazy stuff, this disinformation campaign that was like serious disinformation and serious like threatening of him. As a corporation, it was mandated to go after him.
To do a smear campaign against the guy going after
you. And John becomes or they try to get John involved in that a bit, and just there's what I'm getting is there's just a fascinating,
it's rich
onion of story here.
The thing is, so like, you had started on this thing. You had about 6 other projects before we started Rook, and you were coming out here doing research on it and everything else. And the last time you came out here, we kind of reignited the spark. And so since then, you've just been working on it.
Yeah.
You've since worked on it, and now you have a pilot mostly done.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I had a lot of the outline and a lot of all the pre stuff done, where I was like, okay, I just need 2 months to write this pilot. Mm-hmm. Is what I needed to do.
Yeah, to like explain ourselves. That ideally is a Null+Void project. It's like that's one of those things we want to do. It goes against, I know what you said before of like writing a book. The beauty of it was it's out and it's made and it will live on forever. Doing a script, I know there's that hesitation, fear of like, well, this might just go into someone's drawer, and unless you're willing to play ball and become someone's catcher's mitt,
right,
you're probably never gonna have it made. But one of the interesting ideas you had was, like you said, just putting out on Patreon. Like, here you go, read the script. Here's I don't know who reads scripts these days, but I get the hope is, well, at least it won't die. It'll at least live on in some way. Who knows?
Well,
after we're dead.
There's I mean, at the base level, there's a couple of people who are interested in having it in their hands, which is,
Their names rhyme with mom and dad.
yeah, mom and dad, grandma. But like, if I can just put it in these people's hands and just let them go, like, I know how those things go. And if you don't have the script, then oh, that sounds really cool. And then there's nowhere else to go.
Right.
So if
this sounds great, can you make it take place in the 80s? Or, the 90s is hot right now. Is there a 90s version of this? And you say, no, cheerleaders were driving Mustangs, and that's about as interesting as it got. Please don't make that.
Yeah, it's when it's a finished thing that they can just go shop. That is, at least it's just out there. And then what you're talking about is, I want just like Patreon members to be able to look at it, and then maybe a month later or something, throw it out to the general public. But like, I'm not worried about anyone stealing it. One, because I've mentioned it here in an audio form. Also, it'll be registered. Also, people don't do that because you get fucking sued, know?
Right.
So I'm more than happy, as with any writing, it's just like throw it out there and let people be able to enjoy this or hate it or whatever.
Yeah.
Feel something of this thing that I was really passionate about.
You're not worried about Bravo coming out with Michigan Flex or something, and it's about how the DeLorean was made. Like, this is all wrong.
Illinois yoga. You're like, oh no.
They wanted to make the story of how Elon Musk did not make the Tesla. Someone else did. He just bought it from him and then kicked the guy out and did his thing.
It's such like a I feel like a lot of times that fear of ideas being stolen is used as a crutch to not actually make it sometimes.
Fear of success.
It's like, it's such horseshit, and it'll be so fun to just have it out there and be like, yeah, look. And some ways when you read a script, it's even better than the show because it's better than you in your imagination, like a book or anything else.
Recording a podcast without video.
Right. Yeah,
it's much more, but you just get a richer idea.
God, I look so fucking good today.
Yeah, it's bold of us to do this naked in a sauna in the middle of Chinatown.
Can you hear the bubbles from the jet tub? Okay.
Wait, hold on. I think one of the Falcon 9s are going off.
Yeah.
Hold
on. I got to get these models out of here.
Oh my God, Godzilla.
Yeah.
How'd you get here? I think part of it too is I'm just so tired of hearing you talk about it.
Yeah.
I just want it to be made so it could just exist and go, okay, cool, you did it. You're no longer you're exactly the person you told your grandma you want to be, which is you're a writer who writes, and you put it out. It doesn't matter if it's made or not. It's been written. You've proven here's the thing that I wanted to make, and it's there. Making the actual show is a whole other thing.
Yeah, but I mean, the show could never be made without this step.
Yeah,
it's one of those things like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Though Lynn and I were
Nietzsche said that. Yeah.
Lynn and I were joking the other day because he's like trying to shoot a basketball or something. I was like, you miss 100% of the shots you take. But anyway, yeah, at least it'll be out there. People on Patreon can read it, and even though scripts are not like reading a book, but in some ways it's better because it's quicker to read, to get an entire story out of. Yeah. Also, this would be since this is an hour-long pilot script, it's only like 55 pages. It's not like a movie script that's 110 or whatever.
I never understood that movie. So if you're going to make a show like Mad Men or Breaking Bad or anything on HBO that's an hour long, you're writing a movie a week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's paced differently. I get it, and there's a lot of dialogue and there's a lot of slow scenes, but I think sometimes I prefer that. Like, so we watched Speed last night. This is the second time you and I have watched Speed within the last 2 years. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
When we think of like our perfect, or for me, when I'm like, what's a perfect movie? I think of The Lion King and Speed.
Mm-hmm.
But like that movie is so expertly paced, and it is like, it's weird because it never stops, but you do feel like you have time to breathe. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. Like I don't know.
That's good pacing.
Yeah, it's great editing. It's a great story. The opening of the movie is 24 minutes long. Everyone's just at the top of their game. it's like a perfect movie. No one can write that a week. Like you can't. That's not sustainable. You need that. You need those moments inside of an office where two guys are, just talking.
Well, there's what's called like the soap type stuff, the drama type bits, the human side of a script, which can kind of give you that pacing where it's in Game of Thrones when they're sitting around the castles or what. I've only seen like 2 episodes, whatever. I've only seen the finales of like 2 seasons. I'm like, oh, so was it important that person got thrown in a well? They're like, yes, and I'm like, I don't know, whatever.
It's a fun ride.
Yeah, no, I'm not discounting.
Yes, shit all over HBO's most
Let me tell you
successful
about
show.
my show that hasn't been made.
Dragons are dumb.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, like when we were writing Day 5, we equated it to, it was more like, because it's like half the length of a feature script, you divide by 2, like, okay, we're writing 8 episodes this season. It's like 4 features, though completely different pacing, structure, everything wise. But it's
production budget.
It's the hardest bit of it really is actually in production when you're shooting that amount. That's the harder bit, in my opinion, because the writing, you've had 6 months to just kind of get it all good. And
what's the hardest? It's just people saying a lot of lines of dialogue at once and getting it correct.
It's just the technical aspect of shooting an hour of a something, like a feature is, let's say Rough and Dirty, you shoot in a month and a half, right? 6 weeks, right? For an hour long show, you're usually shooting it in a week to 2 weeks. So it's a compressed timeline, and you're also trying to juggle, like, can we shoot multiple episodes, scenes, and right here, while we're here? And like, it's just it can be a logistic head fuck, basically.
Yeah.
And again, I only have it's limited knowledge, but it's pretty good knowledge based off of, doing Day 5 and the features at Rooster Teeth and whatever. But
the hope is you can get Jake Busey in everything you ever do.
Man. Yeah. Gee, yeah, he's actually going to play the lead character of
Well, that show got canceled.
Yeah.
Look, I'm a Shasta McNasty apologist, so don't...
That reminds me, I need to unfollow him on Instagram, but that's a side tangent.
Why?
I'm just tired of seeing him go like, you ever notice how with gas prices, they rise really quickly and then fall to a higher level they were before, and we just accept it because they're not as high as they were before? And I'm like,
sounds like a really smart guy.
That's like,
very perceptive.
Fucking
wow. Man, I've never looked at a graph before.
I mean, it's
really smart.
It's just sitting in Malibu or wherever, too much sun on your head.
Right. What would his dad's version of that be? The Eagles are doing it.
You ever notice when you're on your motorcycle and they start beaming in the radio directly into your ears and you can't concentrate and you're just, whatever.
That's why I ripped my teeth out.
Yeah.
I prefer Gary.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that to say, that's the big project. I don't want to say we're working on because you're mostly writing it. It's your thing. I hope to be involved in the storyboarding process at some point, but like all that where I'm just trying to maintain Rook, the post support, which isn't much. It's just, doing the audiobook, and we need to do another print edition by the end of the year. I think a smaller paperback version of that or whatever. And got the other stuff, but on my own personal level, like I want to make YouTube videos, like things I don't want to put too much effort into, but I still want to put a little bit of myself into it and I keep going back to wanting to make game reviews, but not doing game reviews because I've fallen so far away from the video game industry. I still keep an eye on it and look at stuff, but it's so silly. Mm-hmm. I think more of where I'm at is review culture and the fact that I've been just trying to
reviewing reviewers would be pretty funny.
Yeah,
but then it's a dangerous territory because then you get into a meanness if it's.
That's the thing. I don't want to be mean. I think it's just more of. I think sometimes it's okay to not express your opinion.
Right.
I think
that's your opinion though.
Yes, I think with the Jake Buseys and everyone else, social media has encouraged us to spout whatever is on our mind, and I don't think that's a good thing. I think this might just be a grand exercise in what not to do, because that's just a quick way to have someone dig up your past. Like going back to like Detroit Muscle, how much easier would it have been to destroy Ralph Nader had he had a Twitter account?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so much.
But at the same, well, on that same hand, it would have been easier for probably Ralph Nader to be like, look at what they're doing to me. Well, I don't
Maybe.
know, because
And then, but just the way everything's so polarized right now too.
It's like that LBJ thing when he was in the campaign and he told his campaign manager, like, call him a pig fucker. And he's like, we can't insinuate that he doesn't actually fuck pigs. It's like, yeah, but make him deny it. Sorry, but I interrupted your...
It's just more of when I'm thinking about it, because there's that part of me that wants to like, oh, I've been playing the latest Halo that came out 7 months ago, and I see the headlines in the communities that's all they play and that's all they have, and it sucks. It's not as good as it used to be. There's a part of me of like, yeah, I used to do these like jokey review things out there, kind of fun to do, but then the more I look into the work that goes into it and the sort of appreciation, it's just so easy to see like a character glitch and fly out, out of the way, or, go into the T-pose or whatever. I can barely make a 3D object lay on a flat surface in a 3D program. I think it's always fun. Sure. Haha. It's easy to point at something that's bad. I think there's a hypocrisy there. There's a meanness that I think gets celebrated more often than it should.
But it's also gray because it depends on the kind of, okay, if the game has such hubris with anything, if they have a bunch of hubris and then something is released in where it's broken like that and they've hoodwinked people, that's
totally get it.
That's a fucking,
Call
yes,
it
is.
Yeah.
It is hard to make a thing, but you also said this, and this, and you promised these things, and you were being a little bastard, basically. You know?
It's
not that they're evil, but it's
it's a bigger philosophical issue of hype and expectations, and we are this dopamine nation of hit, low, 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 and there is no in between. We can't just take a giant step back and just appreciate things. You can't. There's nothing in the gaming culture of, I'm gonna just stop playing video games for 6 months. It's, when's the next thing? Oh, it's not the greatest thing in the world. It sucks. It's terrible. Let's not let anyone ever forget their mistakes and just hit them over the head with it until they make the thing that I want. And it's just such a angry world that I see. And I don't know.
But it's also like anything internet's pretty forgetful pretty quick. Like, right. Cyberpunk, I think it seems like for the most part people are just like, whatever, unless they paid a bunch of money and
I bought it. I paid $60 for it, and according to Steam, I put 50 odd hours into it, but it doesn't feel like it.
Oh wow!
I must have just kept the game on overnight or something.
Yeah, I was like, when would you have done that?
I don't think I had. I don't know. Maybe Steam inflates the time, but I just had a friend ask me like, "Hey, is it worth it? How much did you play?" I was like, 10 hours maybe, and I looked at it. No, I played way more than that, and I don't recall ever enjoying any of it. It was all just, I don't know. As far as I know, they're still working on it. They're trying to make it better, and it's.
But either way, that moment's passed.
It's gone.
It's whatever.
But the thing is, when Cyberpunk 2078 gets announced, people are going to lose their minds, and the cycle continues. Mm-hmm. It is almost an addiction cycle. It's shame on me for getting hyped up about this thing. Ooh, another one. I'm going to try it again, and it's just like, gotta break the cycle. I think just kind of just be okay of stepping away, looking at it from afar and go, well, I hope it does well, or I hope it's good. Dip in. Yeah. So.
But do you think that anger comes from the, again, the pre-sale type thing of that?
It's a hype economy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing I feel bad that I'm not making at night when I'm like, oh, I would like to make that video. And it's just a matter of me sitting down, getting some capture of Overwatch 2, and then recording something, just putting my thoughts out, and it's just an excuse for me to edit something fun. Those are little Null+Void videos I want to do that we can just put out, and I can just say, hey, this is, but I want to find that balance where I can make that stuff on a regular basis, but I don't think I can unless that's my full-time job.
Right.
But then I don't want that to be my full-time job. That's something I want to make when I have the time, and it's that slippery slope. So
Yeah, it's
what should I do, Doc?
well. Let me message the doctor. I feel like it's an organic thing of actually. It starts with having that roadmap and actually getting some of this creative done. Like
Which we're gonna do after this.
and it's doing that and then seeing what naturally kind of is working. Like content wise, and if there's a desire for it and it feels good to make, then kind of. I don't know. You kind of want it to grow organically and actually get headway to where you can actually transition into making that more.
Yeah.
But that's the hump. It's like small business hump. It's I've got to make these these bread rolls in my garage with my little oven until I can get a little kitchen and whatever. It's
Get bought up by Olive Garden.
yeah, that's the hope.
That's the dream.
This Yum Brands comes in. It's like,
buy me out.
this is Null+Void by Yum Brands.
And then like on top of that, we've talked about not sunsetting the Rook website, but building a Null+Void website and then having Rook be a part of that. And like, I'm not a website builder. That's
Obviously.
clearly, yes, takes time. But those are like the top of mind sort of things that I'm like, well, I got to do this, but first I got to do this and do this. And then I've been in this unhealthy pattern of sort of trading addictions where it's not really, maybe it's that I get obsessed with little things and I go deep on it. Two things recently were music production and collecting old video games.
I didn't know. Well, I didn't know about either of these, which makes it feel like an addiction.
We've been talking less because I'm letting you. I'm hoping you're writing Troy Muscle.
I am, but I notice when you don't say anything, it feels almost like addiction. You know how it is. Like
Yeah.
it's like oh, is he hoarding games over there?
So the two things, yeah. So like you can see this setup behind me. It's like a music production area thing.
Okay.
That I've been wanting to build and be able to have a better handle on audio. It's something
Okay.
that, yeah. And
I didn't know this was happening.
it's a hobby. It's the same. This is my hobby area.
You need more hobbies.
Yeah. Well, 3D printer, gaming, editing, audio, music. But no, like I don't know how or why the hell it happened. There was some update to RetroArch, which is it's the one program that can play every old video game ever. I'm not a huge retro gamer or anything, but when there's just like a single file on a website that's 300 gigs, and like it's every game ever made, it's just too tempting to pass up. And on top of that, I was getting into like trying to figure out how to like build a server and all these other things that are just for like long-term stability and all that. And I was like, well, I can put all these games on the server, but oh, wait a minute. I have an NVIDIA Shield in the living room, and then I got my PC here, but then there's this program called Parsec where you can just stream your PC from anywhere in the world. The idea is that like you could have this vast game library and play it anywhere, whenever you want, without having to pay Microsoft or NVIDIA or anyone else for their cloud bullshit. I could make my own cloud. I have no interest in this, really, beyond just building it and then walking away from it. That's not healthy.
That's insane.
It's pure insanity. And I'm staying up way too late, doing too much work on trying to figure out whether Emulation Station is better than RetroBat. RetroBat is a updated version of Emulation Station, which is a build off of RetroPie, which everyone builds their Raspberry Pis off of, but you can't buy a Raspberry Pi right now because of the chip shortage. I don't need any of this.
I had no idea this was going on. And it's very interesting, fascinating, frightening to listen to it now.
It's only been going on for about a week.
Okay.
This started like last Saturday.
I noticed when you don't message or whatever, not like you're messaging me all the time or whatever.
Or I'm just really short with my replies.
And you're going down this, and we talked about this when it was, you were just kind of mentioning that you think you were collecting these games and it was becoming an addicting thing earlier today. And
we're talking, yeah.
We're talking about, it's escape. It's escape from actually doing
Work.
creative work and stuff like that. And it was great for me because it made me not have to talk about my escape in my garage with my car, and I could focus on you. And and I was just listening
It's nice
to this.
to turn the mirror the other way.
And I was just listening to you talk about this now. I mean, I understand the getting lost in no one wants to hear me go down the Volkswagen hole of talking to insane people over forums and stuff like that. But
Or in person.
Like I did yesterday.
Yeah.
But it's a similar thing. It's trying to flee the pressure and the fear of actually having to make something.
Well, when you showed up here and you said, hold on, let me get my gauges out, and you showed up with a tachometer, speedometer, and was just an oil gauge or
fuel gauge.
Yeah.
Old Porsche gauges.
Right. And you're like, man, security really had a hard time with these. They thought I was bringing on a bomb, and it is comically bomb-shaped, yes. And then it was like,
but like a cartoon bomb.
Right. And forgive me if I'm just telling the story wrong, but your reasoning is there's a specific shop here in LA that can customize those gauges to work with the car that you're rebuilding, which is a Frankenstein car right now, because they don't make parts for it, and you're putting a bunch of things from the same manufacturer but from different vehicles, but now you're getting that you're putting money into this thing so that these specific gauges will work with this specific car, but the only way to do it was to put it in a bag, hope that it's not a problem, to drive it to a place to maybe never not see these things for 2 months.
Now, when you say it like that, which is all true, it does make me concerned for me. Yeah, I'm trying to, what it is, I'm trying to make these Porsche gauges from the 70s work in my Carmen Ghia, which they're going to, but I have to take them to this specific place, which I researched in Hollywood as the place that you need to go to. And it looks like it's like a fucking rundown place filled with all these really expensive gauges from classic Porsches. So, I mean, they know what they're doing or whatever. But I had to do all this research, and I had to like go in these deep in these forums and look at posts from 15 years ago and then ask people this and do all this. And it keeps me up at night, and I just like think about it. And when I'm in meetings at where I'm a writer at this company, and they're doing these meetings, and I'm like, yeah. And I'm trying to see what kind of like tachometer interface they're going to put into it so it works with the fuel injection. Like just all this stuff, which is just this chaos, insanity, this mad person trying to flee, the creative weight, of making.
Well, because you like me and whatever little endeavor I'm doing, like you probably feel that small hit of happiness or excitement for
the little victory.
Yeah. Oh, I've discovered something new. Ooh, if I do this, and then I do this, and the next thing you know, you're in too deep and you can't get out. Because now I'm at the point where, the emulator launcher I'm using doesn't recognize the GameCube games. I'm not gonna play GameCube games. That time has come and gone. But the idea is so enticing. I just want it all to be working so that everything can be a button, and I can go, I'm just gonna boot up Wind Waker to see if it works. I'm not gonna sit there and sink 60 fucking hours into a game where Link goes around on the ocean. But there's that weird part of me that wants to. I don't understand it.
My fear is, you were kind of alluding to it earlier, where you collect all these things and then you walk away after it's been accomplished. My fear is similar, getting this car done and having crunched on it and thought about it for a year and put 600 hours into it. I probably put 200 in so far. 600 hours into it, and when it's done, I'm so completely unhappy and just not even wanting to. I just kind of walk away from it somehow, or I'm like, I just need to get this out of my life because it's killed me.
Yeah.
Like it's a fear I have of like, oh my God, what is what is this path I'm going down? And is it,
Yeah, there's the reminder to be still, to be okay with nothing.
You've mentioned that before.
The hope and dream is one day you'll have everything, but then those people tend to hang themselves.
Right.
Because it's just nothing, they don't feel anything anymore. And I think it's okay to have projects. It's okay to be working in that, outer circle of behavior. It's like, I'm feeling good, I'm doing something, I'm feeling like I'm accomplishing something. I try to find that angle. So that's why I like music production or learning the Unreal Engine, or it's a version of it, Twin Motion, which is, this could be a skill that I could use in my life, or I'm learning a new After Effects plugin or something like that. My problem is I just dabble in a bunch of little things and I become a master of none. And so I don't know, like I need to like just, I think maybe that feeling when you're working on something and it's frustrating and you're just like, I don't want to do this, and you want to do something easy and accomplish, like, oh, I just need to change this file, and now it can read the GameCube games. I feel accomplished. It accomplished nothing. It was nothing. It was a small little victory that resulted in minute happiness. But hey, now I can play Switch games on the PC.
It's easier to get those victories than it is finish a script or a book, or finish we're going to talk about some of the creative we're thinking about doing or pursuing. I think.
What's that?
Well, we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, so that's the hope.
Right.
Like, you recorded the Amazon Prime Town green screen thing, but I also don't want to just do the same thing as the Elon Musk video. That was a lot of fun to do, and it was a cool way to do it remote. With everything I do, I want to one-up it or try something, and so I'm like, well, I've been dabbling with 3D, getting there. I'm not great at it, but it's so usable at a point now where right before this, you were making your own metahuman.
Trying.
Yeah, it's just really cool. You looking at a picture of yourself in one monitor while I'm in the background looking confused. And then on the other screen, you're on the metahuman thing making a 3D version of yourself.
Trying to get the eyebrows right.
You were spending so long on the eyes.
It was trying to like understand how to move the elements of a face in that program, which I'd move the mouse and then I'd turn Chinese, and then I'd move it and I'd become like Brazilian, and I'm like, no,
because I think they know if you give too much flexibility in a character creator, you're going to make a monster.
Right.
And so I think with the Unreal metahuman character creator thing, it limits what you can do so that you'll be ugly but still beautiful in the game engine. You won't have like a completely flat head and giant.
It's like in
eyeballs.
Photoshop where you're basically using like the liquefy or the smear tool or whatever, like, which is what I keep treating it as. Like, I just want to drag this
further. Right. The hope is to use that program in some of our future content of like more of the YouTube stuff I want to make, where it's like, it's fun, it's good to make, it's somewhat disposable trash, but I still feel a bit more full for making this because I made some form of entertainment that makes hopefully you and I both laugh.
Well, for me, the idea, and we'll talk about this later in our thinking session, but I want to make a show that harnessing the power of that technology with the facial scan, like mimicking our mouth movements and all that stuff.
It's not even mimicking. It's just it's live.
It's actually capturing and translating it to the faces.
Your phone can do the face mocap. That's better than the technology they used on Tron Legacy, because Jeff Bridges refused to draw dots on his face. So they had to invent a whole new program, which is now in your pocket. It's ridiculous.
Which is, I think there's a couple ideas that we can pursue that might make a show or a series that we'd actually like to make that wouldn't kill us, but it would be really fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I've wanted to do that for a while. When I was doing a venture, trying to do a venture after Rooster Teeth, where I was kind of like throwing things at a wall and not quite creating in a good headspace. I was dabbling with deepfake technology before it was really usable on a commercial level. I mean, it was, but it wasn't there yet. And I was trying to make things work that can work now that wouldn't work then.
Funny enough, you still own the laptop that you were trying to make it on, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised it hasn't died. That graphics card hasn't, because I put it through so much shit. But like, but there is a show to be made harnessing what I was talking to you about earlier was, right now it's in the phase of tech people can use it. And, and you were saying how like some YouTubers basically just do like news type things with it or whatever, but there's no stories being told using this technology in a way that elevates it. Like this is a portal to a type of storytelling that we couldn't do otherwise. And we should go through that portal and not just use the portal for its face value, which is like, oh, we'll just do our avatars, which I was designing earlier, and have them sitting in a room doing a podcast. That's not what that technology.
No, we could do that, but that's only seeing in front of your face.
It's right. That's what's in front of your face, and that's not the next level creative with it.
I was telling you, I think of Xavier Renegade Angel. It's the guys who made Wonder Chosen, which was a giant headache of a show for them to make, and then Xavier was much more dumbed down because they just shot it. They did the cheapest version of mocap they could, and it was 3D, but it looked really bad. But it didn't matter how it looked because it was just, well, how can we quickly and cheaply turn this thing out? And it's basically stream of consciousness, the show, and it's a giant mess, and they can keep up with what they're doing without, having to take it to the Pixar render farm.
Right.
That's where my brain goes of, now we can do cheap animation that looks decent. It doesn't look like complete trash.
You're saying mine is too lofty?
It could be loftier.
Oh.
No, I think you're talking about the next door thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's different ways to use it to bring these stories alive. I mean, one of them, this is just kind of the first ideas kind of thing, but I think we might pursue them anyway. This wouldn't be like I think there's other show ideas, but one of the ones that we're talking about is the next door neighbor idea, which, I mean, you can kind of, if you want to set it out.
You would send me, like Prime Pandemic, you would send me these screenshots of you on Nextdoor trolling people, but not trolling and...
I was bringing them into a trap of my own character-built stupidity.
Yeah, highbrow trolling in a sense of... You get them in, you lure them in with just a taste, and I think this comes from your skills as a writer. You get them in of it's written very eloquently, or I don't know, like
it's not hammer over the head obvious.
Yeah, it just you sort of get them in of like someone asks a question, hey, where's a good place to get a drink? You go, this place is great, it's awesome. Also, your wife won't see you because if she's driving by,
there's parking out back.
There's parking out back. So if you're going to be on a date, your wife won't see you. You have now I have bit. Yeah. I'm like, wait, what? Hold on. And
that's the whole idea is you get that hold on, wait a second. Why?
Yeah. And the beauty of that, it's all on a forum, but it's you kind of doing your crank yankers thing. There's such a guilty pleasure in seeing you just kind of just play with your toys of you can say anything. And it's just because everyone on Nextdoor is just looking for, the goss or the,
right.
No one's there to like fuck around. There's no humor there.
Right. There's no humor. It's way too serious for a neighborhood thing. Right. Sometimes it's people scared of black people in their neighborhood kind of stuff.
It's only like 90% of the posts.
And it feels it's a homeowners association meeting constantly on the thing. And what is better than going into one of those and fucking wreaking havoc and chaos?
So yeah, you were sending me those and I was like, we need to make this into a show. We need to figure it out. And I think I was going to try it in Gmod, but Gmod's just so dated. It's almost 15 years old.
And people have seen it tons of times.
Yeah. And it has just such a specific look and feel. And I'm like, yeah. And it's still a pain in the ass to use. And it's there and it's fine. And then I was like, well, maybe we just do like a Tom Goes to the Mayor cheap Photoshop thing. But it's just essentially, it's almost this weird, like Thomas the Tank Engine sort of, George Carlin doing a voiceover for every character where they're just kind of, it's a still of them. But then I'm like, oh, with this Unreal stuff, I think that's where I want it to be, where you have these metahumans that already kind of look derpy. Not super derpy.
We have to show my avatar that I use on the site.
Oh, we'll have it at the end. Yeah, that's going. I mean, look, we have to fill this thing with some sort of visual.
Yeah.
People are going to get really tired of the voice visualizer.
It's funnier if it's just me like running around and people are trying to figure out who I am. I mean, people would probably figure, because the last few times I did it, they went to like they were featured on Nextdoor, because there was so much engagement with them of people going like, why would you want to go to a place, and hide from your wife? And I was like, well, we both go on dates with other people and we don't like seeing each other on dates with other people. And they're like, why would you bring that disgusting talk into this? And then someone comes up is like, whoa, that's not disgusting. And then I'm like, yeah, it's, people's choices are people's choices. I respect yours. In fact, like, I know some of your spouses, they know mine. And also like, if your spouse wanted to come here, I wouldn't care. It's just everyone can just be happy. And like I come off as one, I actually believe that, but two, like I come off as a good guy, and it infuriates these people.
It's the beauty of not picking a side,
right?
Because you can just go.
That's what
in
drives
and out.
them fucking mad,
right? It's like pick one. Yeah. What are you? And it's just like whatever annoys you the most right now, because you are like true chaos, which is,
and it's fun flipping sides within your own argument. So like when I was talking about the one, there was this person was complaining one of the parks it's supposed to be leash only, and someone had let their dog go and it had gone up to their dog who was on a leash and attacked their dog, and they're like, this is dangerous, people have to keep this in mind. And I was like, yeah, I was at the same park with my son, and there was a dog off leash, and my son is leash reactive, and as soon as the dog came up, my son bit the dog, and then people go, your son's on a leash? And someone's like, well, they do have children leashes. I was like, yeah, and he has a little metal collar so he doesn't run too hard, and
he's got the shock collar. Yeah,
and then I flipped later on, and I was like, but as people were arguing with each other, I was like, it's not good to be a helicopter parent, in my personal opinion. Like, I just can't control my, I don't want to control my son like that. I think they should be free. But and there's like, someone's like, but you put him on a leash, and I was like, yeah, but he's outgrowing it, whatever. Anyway, it drives people nuts.
What I like, going kind of back to the review stuff, like nothing you're doing is mean. It's good comedy where the hypocrisy is showing itself.
Right. That's what I enjoy about it.
Yeah, and I think there's the people who are on Nextdoor who like to be on Nextdoor are just seems to be the most extreme, and probably
it's the extreme conservative, extreme liberal. Like it's the polars,
right?
Basically.
Right. Yeah, it's either it's all I feel this, I feel that, and just to be someone who goes in the middle and just plays with both sides is so brilliant. And it is the closest thing I could think of, like to South Park, where it's like that's
showing everyone their humanity and their hypocrisy.
Right. Yeah. Like it's, you don't have to pick a side, and it's okay to be in the middle or not, or just neutral or not. I mean, to be nothing. It's okay. A mix of,
if you're just being good in your life and trying to be good to others, I think that's the important thing to kind of,
Yeah. And then you get the shot with Schadenfreude feeling of just the enjoyment of people losing their shit. It's the prank call thing. I was thinking back to the old the Duke Nukem soundboards when people are begging him, please stop.
I've got balls of steel. I'll rip your head off and shit down your neck. Get the fuck off! Eat shit and die.
I feel bad for those people, but you can't help but laugh.
Yeah.
It's just, fuck you.
I mean, I enjoy those on a surface level thing. I enjoyed the Nextdoor stuff because of what you were talking about, of the showing people like, come on, like let's come together. Let's have this, and you do see like probably 1 out of every 50 people who engages with one of those things I'm doing, they'll kind of laugh, or they'll have an emotion, because they're just, again, they're probably the people that are looking at it from 30,000 feet. And it's usually when it gets featured on Nextdoor that someone like that pops in, because it's someone who casually uses the site and might check it once a week, and they're like, oh my god, this is hilarious, this is whatever, blah blah blah. That's great too,
My dream, my hope is that Null+Void becomes this is the first year, it's the growing part where we're also holding down full-time jobs to pay for the things and the people that we love. And can't go full steam ahead, but I think it is also giving me an appreciation for the times I get to work on it, and not forgetting that when it does become a full-time creative agency, you know, you're telling me about the vodka ads that you pitched that were banned or like.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think, and you can bleep out the name. I think Breckenridge Vodka is out of business now.
That's fine.
But it doesn't matter.
Any alcoholic company.
Yeah, but so it was originally this company, Breckenridge Vodka, approached me, and Zach may have been a part of that at the time, but they approached me, and it was this guy who was like, "Hey, do you have any kind of like some of your comedy stuff or whatever? Do you have any ideas for ads that you know we could run with? You know, we're gonna do some TV stuff, blah blah blah." I was like, "Yeah, let me think. Let me put some stuff together." I come up with this ad campaign where it's these commercials. It's these Breckenridge ad execs who are being presented advertising by this agency. And the agency, you just see from the people presented, they kind of seem like slovenly, like not quite there, but you know, maybe creatives, and that's just how creatives are.
Yeah.
So they give this presentation of this commercial to the ad execs, and it also takes place in the 70s, but the ads, it's this campaign that shows the benefits of Breckenridge vodka, and the first one is this: you see this airline pilot walking through a terminal, and he's like, "Flying a plane takes nerves of steel and a steady hand. That's why I rely on Breckenridge vodka. Have a couple before a long haul flight gets me right in the headspace I need to be." You know, and the ending shot is, you know, he's in the cockpit, you know, with his co-pilot, and they clink glasses as the door closes, and someone in the aisle from the seat sees and goes, "Oh," and then it shuts and Breckenridge vodka, you know, and then it goes back into this presentation room, and the Breckenridge vodka execs go, No, we can't do that. And then it cuts to the end card, Breckenridge vodka. It's like, Breckenridge vodka, we do not endorse
the following, the previous commercial.
And then we made a bunch of these. The other one I'll mention is same actor playing in the 70s commercial, you know, same setup. It's the ad execs being presented, another attempt. Same actor who was playing the airline pilot. We're in a hospital, and he's like, "Brain surgery takes nerves of steel and a steady hand. That's why I have a Breckenridge vodka before a long surgery. It gives me the confidence I need to cut where I need," you know, or whatever. And so the ending shot is they're giving anesthesia to this patient, and as the patient's falling asleep, they kind of get this concerned look, and from their POV, we see the doctor and nurse clink Breckenridge vodka glasses, and then it goes Breckenridge vodka, you know, and then cuts back in. They're like, no.
It's similar. I hate fucking doing this.
I hate it too. I hate when people do this.
Well, no. What I'm saying is it reminds me of, there's some car rental commercials, I think budget car commercials, and they felt ballsy. They felt like they're like a little sinister, a little like, oh my. I think they had a similar thing where they're like, well, we can't do that, but they still found a way to do it. So it's the writer's
That's what I love, those kind of...
Yeah, it's like the writer's brainstorming. They go, you know what people love? And they're like, what they love about our business is like the curbside pickup. It's like the same day delivery. And they're like, I think aromatherapy. Like, yeah. And then it cuts out the people in the car driving, and they have aromatherapy candles. And it's the passenger, the guys in the back seat, and then the driver, and they're all asleep.
Yeah.
And it's just that hard cut of it, going into oncoming traffic, and they just go, no, that's a bad idea. But you showed it. Yeah. And that's what's so good. Or like, you know what'd be good? Jetpacks. And then the guy goes into the like wires of goes into the power lines and fries and dies. It's like...
Lynn and I love watching those. Those are great commercials.
But you watch those and you're almost like, are these real? And no one makes commercials really like that. And that's what... I don't know. Something just...
Someone's going to say like, yeah, I saw those liquor commercials. So-and-so...
they're huge in Europe. Yeah. I don't... But I mean, well, one, to go, look, nothing is sacred. Nothing's original, whatever. But then also I think it's like, those are fun. Do them, whatever. Like, that's... My hope is, as a creative agency or whatever, you know, Null+Void becomes, is just like, at least the stuff we're making it's just not the same thing. You're not... I'm trying to think of like the last time I saw a car commercial that I was interested in the car.
Yeah, well, there's a formula. Car companies a lot of times can be hamstringed by the rules they have to follow. You can't show a car speeding around. You can't show it doing dangerous things.
It's on a closed course.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's always on a closed course, like professional driver on a closed course, but you can't show it doing, like in the 60s, you could show a car power sliding around a corner, you know, and like power shifting and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
You can't do it, like kind of base level exciting things like that. So you have to.
But that to me is limiting. Why do you have to show the excitement of the car over and over? Like that's been done to death. I can't get excited about every car and its performance, and it's, you know, it's out on a airplane takeoff, you know, tarmac. Like,
so you like the Kia commercial with the hamsters?
Oh, the Super Bowl one where he's like shooting hamsters at a wall. That may have been something else.
No. I think it was a Kia Soul that had the hamsters driving in it. We can run it, or you'd be able to see it.
Okay, yeah. I take that back. There was a badass Japanese Toyota commercial. Maybe it's a Scion or something like that, but it's going through a manga, and then it ends up in Street Fighter, and it's the part where you beat up the car, except they're cleaning it. And it's just jumping through all these different genres. Like, that's a good commercial. Holy crap. How many of these commercials just look the same to you?
Right.
You know, BMW. And they do like maybe a cool rotoscoping effect or something, but I'm just tired of watching a truck go over a mountain that you're not going to do. You know, or Matthew McConaughey, he's a super likable, lovable dude. I can only ever think about how he probably smells like weed and mud.
He actually smells nice.
It's not going to make me buy a Lincoln.
Right.
Because I'm not driving anyone to the airport right now.
Those Lincoln commercials, in my opinion, though we're talking about them now, which is the whole fucking aim of a commercial.
Sure.
It was not a good use of a McConaughey necessarily. Like, yes, he's pontificating, philosophical, whatever he's saying. Yeah. It's just, you gotta let those words drift. Yeah. Meaningless words. Well, anyway,
I want him to describe Apple CarPlay connectivity to me.
You know, the guy he smokes pot, he plays the bongos, he does these McConaughey things. Yeah. And I don't think they had him doing McConaughey things in there. It's like, it seems like that could have been any celebrity. Yeah. You know, it
could have also been a watch commercial.
It could have been, any commercial, could have been any celebrity, which is usually a sign of not good focused creative. Again, I understand we're talking about the commercials now, and they were made fun of, but I think they were made fun of just because of their self-import.
Yeah.
Sort of self-import.
Lack of self-awareness. Yeah. Sort of like,
yes.
Someone saw that and said, class.
Yeah.
I'd be like, that man hasn't showered in 15 years.
But more people saw it and go, oh, what did they do? What is this? You know, it's like, it doesn't make Lincoln cool, which Lincoln is trying to be cool. So is Buick, you know, like, I'd love to make a Buick commercial just because I know it sounds insane, but the challenge of it,
I'm into it.
Buick has been trying to shed off their old people image for 20 years now, 15 years now. And the commercials I see is they throw in some young people and they're like, yeah, it's a Buick. Yeah, what is that? It's a Buick. It's like, that does not make it cool. That's you telling and not showing. Yeah. It's like, I want something cool. I want to see a bold, crazy Buick commercial you could do something with Fast and the Furious with Buick, and you have all these like Tokyo Drift type people, and then you have this Buick, and they call out the fact they're like, that's an old person's car. And they're like, yeah, well, you know, like, what about this? And they do something and they like accidentally smash the car into a wall. And they're like, but it was cool for a second. They're like, yeah, you know, I don't know, like, whatever. You know, there's some. I don't even think you can show a car wrecking, but
I think you do the shot of the police officers and they're looking in the back of the car at the mutilated body and they're describing it in great detail. But what kind of car is it? And then this Buick. There's a leg sticking out of it with just a little blood dripping down.
Yeah. Or like Thelma and Louise, and they're like, you ready? It's like, I'm ready. Just do it. And they go off the cliff, and they're like. The cops are like, no, the Buick! And at the bottom of the cliff, they're trying to clean up all the Thelma and Louise out of the Buick.
That's the hard thing. How can you make a good car commercial without
murder?
Murder's the easy part. The falling back on a celebrity endorsement. Right. That's sort of the tough thing. Like, get OJ to endorse it.
You emulate the original commercials he was in where he's like running through, like leaping through the airport and stuff like that. And the old woman's like, go OJ! But it's like... she's like, fuck you, OJ. And he's like, But he's like hobbling through the airport because he can't run or jump anymore.
Jesus.
And it's like some person that goes up to TSA agent. They're like, OJ's running through the airport. It's like, where is he?
And then you just always end it with Hertz does not endorse this commercial.
Right. And Hertz holds up keys and they're like, enjoy it, Mr. Juice. And he's like, well, thank you very much. And he gets in and then immediately it's a helicopter chase. But
He gets in a new Bronco.
yeah, he gets in the new. That's the new Bronco commercial.
All that to say,
All that can be yours.
yeah, if you hire us today, give us an excuse. Oh, the other thing too, I was spending some of my free time trying to help it's not a nonprofit, but like there's a group that's trying to make this like really cool technology to stop forest fires.
Wildfires in general, yeah.
Yeah, the whole like they have this really awesome technology. I don't know if they're ready to talk about, but like through a friend, they were like, hey, we want to. These guys are engineers. They're super smart. And they explained it to me and I was like, I'm having a hard time understanding it. And then when they like walked me through, I was like, this makes total sense. In my job there, I ended up deferring pay because I'm like, I've spent too long on this.
Right.
And I've taken too long. Keep all the money, please. This helps me feel good a little bit because I think what you guys are doing is really fucking awesome.
Especially if it took off and we were actually making
that's what I told him. I said, look, when you guys get funding, call us and we'll make real videos for you. But like that's I think other stuff too where like I'm putting my efforts into that is invisible and you don't see. And like I'll have to talk to them and say, is it okay that we mention that we did some work for you, or like hopefully we can do some. But like that's also too where I feel like I have that somewhat creative freedom where I can work on something that you'll never see. I've done a bunch of stuff online that you have no idea I made. Commercials.
That's actually true.
Yeah, there's commercial on TV. There's a few videos you had no idea I made them.
Some of them we might be able to show.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if it's even worth mentioning. I kind of I like the invisible hand.
Yeah.
Of just like, here's the other thing too. I don't want to be an influencer.
Right.
I don't want to be a part of influencer culture. I understand that's where it's headed, but I know how depressed it made me to push Nutrisystem or Manscaped or whatever, because they come to you and they go $500 just to make an Instagram post, and you're like, I'm feeling my soul leave my body with every one of these posts, and then having to send metrics and go, here you go, and like, great job, man, good conversions. And I was like, I hate this so much.
The best one was the ball trimmer, I thought, but whatever.
I mean, it paid for itself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's paying dividends.
And the less I'm involved as a personality or as a person, the better, because I don't see myself as that, and I don't want to be that. I want to avoid that pitfall, even though I know that's where the money is, and I know that's where it's all going, but I have to just believe in that's not good for me. Godspeed to the people who are good at it and can do it and can sleep at night promoting a phone they don't use.
Well, grab yourself a cool Breckenridge vodka. It'll give you the steady hand and clear mind you need to not post on social media.
Rejected. Mm-hmm. Alcohol can be good for you in big doses.
Yeah.
We can't run this. You can't say that. That's bad.
Well, you do another one. It's like Jimi Hendrix, Marilyn Monroe. All these people were Breckenridge vodka drinkers. And you're like, wait, what?
Aged for 27 years.
Yeah.
Just like your favorite rock star. Yeah.
We cannot run this. It's like, but it's classy vodka, and these are classy people. And they passed away, but
nothing lasts forever.
Right.
Get out.
That's another good line. Nothing lasts forever.
Drink vodka. Anyway, here's Aaron's fuck doll. His teeth are so perfect.
I love my